everyone, welcome to the next installment of my Erza Scarlet Heaven's Wheel Armor cosplay. In this video I'm showing you how I created the headpiece, and we're starting off with the little wings that go around onto her temples. So this template is a three-piece template. You're going to go ahead and trace them out twice. Each piece you need twice because there's one on each side, and you're going to go ahead and trace that on your craft foam. Once that's all traced out, just go ahead in with your scissors and cut them out. This actually is a similar template to what I used for the shoe winglets, and I just went ahead and decided to make the template actually 3 parts instead of just eyeballing it like I did for the shoe pieces. Okay, so once you're going to go through and cut all those out, just stack them one on top of each other, check for alignment, make sure everything is lining up okay. If it doesn't, just going to go ahead in with your scissors and trim them as needed. Once that's all lined up correctly, I'm going to set them to the side and move on to the actual headpiece that wraps around your forehead. So I went ahead and cut about a 1-inch strip of craft foam, and also a little tiny, maybe 1/4-inch strip of craft foam that's the same length as that. In some of the pictures, it actually has these 2 little ridges, one on the top and one on the bottom, and some of them it doesn't. I decided to go for it just to give it more texture. And so what you're going to do is just take a little bit of hot glue and glue that along the bottom. Now it's important that, you know, it's pretty even and straight on the top part. Don't worry about the bottom part so much, because if you need to, you can just go ahead and trim that off, because you're not going to be able to really tell as much with that. But do try to make sure that on the top and the bottom, the middle, the inside portion of that little ridge is as straight as you can possibly get it, because that's where you're going to really see if you've made any mistakes or if there's any unevenness. So yeah, you're going to go ahead and glue that top piece on, and then do the same thing with the bottom piece. And then trim off any excess that you may have on the ends. Just watch that you don't have any glue seepage from that hot glue. If you do, just grab a little piece of foam and you can go ahead and just kind of wipe that away. You can see here I'm doing the same thing on the other half of it, and once that is all lined up, the excess glue scraped away, you're just going to go ahead and trim off any excess. See, that's how I mentioned before, I'm going to trim along the bottom here, just because it didn't line up perfectly, and I want to make sure that everything kind of looks flush and nice and even for when I put the Worbla over top of it. Cut off any little ends that you have sticking off that maybe don't line up. I just used a strip of scrap craft foam that I had and made sure that it was the right length for my head. I didn't want it to go all the way around the back of my head because I figured it might make some little, you know, imperfections with the wig. So it just kind of goes about a little bit past my ears. And now for here, we're going to use the hot glue. Go ahead in and hot glue those 3 little winglet pieces together. You're going to do that for both sides. For these headpiece winglets, I decided not to cover them with Worbla. I just left them as is, and that worked out pretty well. Okay, now we're going to move on to the Worbla portion. So you're just going to lay that headpiece on, and the reason why I decided to cover this in Worbla because I really wanted to hold its shape and just be pretty sturdy and rigid on my forehead. So you're going to go ahead and trim that out just along the side. You don't need to sandwich this piece because the inside is really going to be flush against your face and nobody's going to see it. So just enough to kind of wrap around the edges. That's all you really need to do for this part. Okay, again, then you're going to get your handy dandy heat gun out, heat up that Worbla, and once you start to see it kind of change color and it get a little more pliable and moldable, then you're going to go ahead and grab your foam piece and just put that right on there face down. So you've got the 2 little raised ridges that you can see on the top and the bottom there. That part is going to be facing the sticky side of the Worbla because that's going to be the part that's going to adhere it to the foam itself. So once that's all heated up and changed color nicely, you're going to go ahead and, I don't know why I tried to do it that way. Just go ahead and flip that piece on, and then you're going to start shaping it. So I used actually a pen cap for this, just to make sure that I'm getting clear delineation between those top and bottom pieces. You can go ahead and just heat it up as needed as well too, just to make sure that you're able to really create a nice, sharp, clean edge around the inside of that little raised portion of the headpiece there. Okay, so you're going to just go along, you know, define those edges, and then once you've gone through and you've gotten all of those edges clearly defined, you're going to just flip the piece over and start wrapping around. So for this, I just focused on the front of it mostly, but you actually will have to go back because once you flip it over and start, you know, pushing down the other side of it, you start to lose some of that delineation between the edges there. So go through, edit all of those pushing down clearly, making a nice sharp edge. And because it does kind of cool down kind of quickly, just, you know, go back in with your heat gun, but again, make sure you don't heat it up too much or it gets kind of that funny white texture. Okay, you guys get the idea. Just continue to press and work and move and mold. That's the good thing about the Worbla, that it's just really easy. So you're going to flip it over, fold those pieces over to the back, and just kind of go along. You're going to probably need to heat it up at this point. It starts to cool down a little bit. Yeah, the more I find myself working with it, the little easier it gets to be. But just make sure that, you know, if you do trim any of your pieces, save all your scraps, because you can continue to heat that up and use it over again. This stuff's a little bit expensive. I think I paid for the large roll, I think it was $50 maybe? I ordered mine online from cosplaysupplies.com. And then again, you know, while you are wrapping around, just keep in mind that you want this to be kind of nice and smooth and even. It doesn't need to line up completely. You just want to make sure that there's no bumps or anything that's going to irritate your face, because remember, this is going to be sticking on your face. Okay, and then like I said, just flip it back over, go through one more time, and make sure that you still have those nice sharp edges on that little lip on the inside. At this point, it started to cool down a little bit. It's still moldable, so we want to go ahead at this point and shape it on our face. Be very careful with this step. You want to make sure that it's not hot, because we don't want any injuries. Mine is still warm, but it's not hot, so you can see I can kind of mold it and bend it, and then I'm just going to go ahead and lay back and place it over my forehead, so that way it's actually going to be completely flush against my face once I've attached it. So you can see here, it's cooled down and it's going to be the shape that I'm going to leave it in. Yeah, that's how it sits on your forehead. So for this, I'm actually going to hot glue little wig clips, so like little extension Weft clips. I'm going to hot glue those on the inside, right where I'm making those marks right there, and that's going to help hold it onto my wig. I'm also going to use some special effects adhesive on the front part to make sure that it's not going to go anywhere once it's attached to my forehead. Take some wood glue. I did about 2 to 3 coats of wood glue here, and we really want to just make sure we're giving ourselves a nice smooth finish. So I'm using my finger. In between the layers, I'm going to let it dry, and then once I'm all done, I'm just going to go in and sandpaper it with a fine-grained sandpaper. For the winglets, I also coated these in wood glue just to make sure that they are nice and smooth. And then I'm taking my Dremel and sanding down the edges. So because these are 3 layers of foam together, you can see those edges on the side, and because I'm not covering them with Worbla, I wanted to make sure that it was kind of seamless there. So the wood glue provided a nice service, just to make sure that it's fusing those 3 together, and when you see them up close, you don't actually see that it's 3 pieces of foam. It does just look like 1 piece of foam together. Once that's done, I use that same silver spray paint that I used for the rest of my shoes and my other armor pieces, and then just kind of took some black matte acrylic paint and lined those edges you can see on the inside there. For the wings themselves, after they were primed and sanded, I used a white pearl spray paint, same brand, same style of the silver spray paint that I was using, and then just used the same dove gray paint that I used for the necklace shading on the edges of each little delineation between the different winglets. And then I just took some hot glue, lined those up on my face to make sure I liked the placement. They kind of go right above her temples. Wanted to make sure they were even, so I kind of put it on, went to look in the mirror, came back and glued it on, and so on and so forth. So that's basically it. You can see on the inside there the little wig Weft clips that I glued on the inside just to make sure that everything would stay in place and I don't worry about them sliding off. And that's basically it. You know, it definitely sticks on pretty firmly, but you know, I will be using a special effects adhesive on the front part so that it sticks to my forehead and I don't have to worry about it moving. There's the necklace. I was just attaching the Velcro that I was going to use to keep that together, showing you the paint that I used for the pearlescent, and that's basically it. I'm going to be using that same spray paint for the wings once I get to that project, but that's it. Headpiece done, necklace done. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you guys next time. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye. Front and back of this. Now I didn't add any color, but it did give it a really nice sheeny pearl finish.